Hello, my dear friend in Christ. How are you doing? This is your servant, Father Anthony, coming your way again. Today, allow me to be very straight. When Christians treat each other so poorly. I was reading the book of Acts, chapter 9, verses 26 onwards. And I was surprised that even when Saul had repented and Paul, his new name, he was being rejected by no ordinary people, but the disciples themselves. It took only Barnabas who took him in. It is not new in our time. In our world today, people who live in the outskirts will travel miles to the cities just to worship in temples that have names. Are you one of them? But we stay with the normal, local, ordinary people, but we are not ready to worship with them because their choirs are not of our standard. Economically, they are not our standard. Academically, they are not our standard. So we leave them. Yet, during harvest time, we show up and pretend we love them. Are you one of them? Some people join prestigious societies because the lower ones are not their ranks. Let us even leave the groups and the churches. One-on-one. How many of us take the ordinary ones in? We rank with our ranks. We go so high. That was what the apostles, disciples did to Paul. But I want to warn you and warn myself that no matter what, God still used Paul. And he says he preached fearlessly. You may reject the poor. You may look down on those with bad names. But I tell you, God will still use them. So why don't you become the means by which God will use them, rather than reject those with bad names? Have you thought about this? So I'm not surprised when in the 1 John chapter 3 verse 18 onwards, that time John had grown up and he was then reflecting and telling the younger generation, my children, let us love not by words, but by deeds, true love. We select Christians. We abuse Christians. Why? Are you one of them? Think about this. And that is why in the Gospel of John chapter 15, Jesus says, I am the true vine. He who stays in me will bloom, will flourish. But let me ask you, why will one of the branches wither? Is it the vine that would take it off by itself? No, it is the third party. Sometimes we take the branches off. We tear them away because they don't belong to our class. They don't belong to our so-called Christian name, the pure ones like you and me. And so we tear them off and they wither. I dreamt of a priest who left his own area but was rejected by the new area because he doesn't belong to them. I dreamt of this young girl who is trying to live her life and moves to the city, but because of her clothes, she is rejected by the so-called Christians. I know and I dreamt of this young boy who works to be one of the drummers, but he was told that because of how he looks, he can't join them. I dreamt of this young person who walked into an office but was told that she was not wearing anything that was good. If he had, would he have walked there? Have you thought about all these? You know, once I was decorating a bouquet of flowers and I plucked one of the natural ones and mixed it with artificial ones. With time, it withered. Why? Because I plucked it off from the main tree. This is what we do to ourselves when we pluck the innocent ones and plant them into the so-called Christians. Because we reject them, they don't grow. Today I speak to your conscience. Have you rejected somebody because of your good name? The person has a bad name. Have you rejected somebody because of your class of academics, your class of economics, your class of money, your standards of life, because the person doesn't belong? I caution you. Let us be careful, because like in the time of Paul, Jesus will use him anyway. And remember, he was the first person and the only person to have written so many of the epistles in the New Testament. Why? Because humanity rejected him and God accepted him. Don't be the reason why God will accept somebody. Let that acceptance come through you. Let it come through me. Think about this, and I wish you well. Let us come together as Christians, and together our destiny will be heaven. God bless you, and I'll see you again. Shalom.